Cube spin! Look at that. Wow. That was cool. All right. That was awesome. So, welcome to this week's live stream. It's been a while here. It's been a while here since I've been on here. And I see, how you doing, Rick? He said you had ChatGPT write you a script. It was really good, basic but good. I had to put some meat on the bones, but I liked it. My experience with ChatGPT has just been like it creates the most bland, boring script. So I mean, it formats it properly, but yeah, you really do need to work with it. I think my mic is a little loud. Let me turn stuff down a little bit. Yeah, so let's talk about. So I've been basically the impetus of today's talk was finishing Quentin Tarantino's book on cinema speculation. How you doing, Francisco Drex from Brazil and Cristoforo from Rome? That must be late over there in Rome, really early, I guess. So I finished the audiobook of Quentin Tarantino's book on cinema speculation. And I gotta say, I really, really liked it. I liked hearing his opinion on cinema. I loved his little final chapter on his friend, his mom's like on and off again boyfriend, and it was very. It gave me kind of a really new perspective on 70s cinema that I didn't. I get tired of people saying like the last great era of cinema was the 70s, and that putting it. The book puts the era of the 70s cinema into its perspective, and it gives me a lot of appreciation for the 70s cinema that I may not have looked at. But Tarantino's approach to that cinema is not an approach of elitism, that of this sort of kind of critical elitism, I guess, that I want to say. Filmmaker from Iraq, all right, Omar. You must be even earlier, and from Thailand again. A lot of all folks all over the world here. Hello from Hellas. Awesome, welcome, guys. I'm glad you could join me for my discussion here. Hi, Account for Comment. How you doing? So what I wanted to say with this book, I highly recommend it if you are interested in cinema, to pick up the audiobook or pick up the book itself and read it the old-fashioned way. I'm not a good reader. I'll be honest. I don't read. I read very slowly because I read like word for word, and I also internalize a monologue in my head, so I hear a voice in my head when I'm reading. I can't just, which means I read very slowly. So which audiobooks for me like bypasses that part and I already get the audio into my ear. But the point is, get the book. I would highly recommend the book because I think it also illuminates a possible direction of what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years in terms of cinema. I don't think we're going to return to an old-fashioned go to the movies cinema. I think what we're seeing now is going to be. I'm going to bet. Now here's my. Well, let me just put it this way. The 70s cinema was born out of 50s, 60s kind of disillusionment with society. I think a lot of the issues that the 70s cinema dealt with are once again alive in modern times. I think there's a paranoia. There is a sense of disillusionment. I think all of that is alive today, in that history repeats itself, quite literally. History repeats itself so much more that I think we are on the brink of a 70s style growth of cinema, like the kind of cinema that you saw in the 70s. Now, is it going to be funded by corporations? No. So I don't think we'll have the same kind of corporate media, like the Disneys and the big Warner Brothers may not be funding those particular types of movies, but we have technology on our side that is far more powerful than what they did in what they had in the 70s. So you can produce a movie, that is way better than anything that could be made for the same amount dollar amount, even adjusted for inflation, that you had in the 70s. So I'm kind of excited. We're seeing the death knell of the superhero genre. I mean, sure, people are going to talk about superhero movies. It's always going to be, it's always going to be in the background. But the I feel like we are getting primed for another growth spurt in cinema, as far as like what you can do and what's going to be discussed, what's going to be approached. I don't know. Maybe it's also my age. I feel like I've hit a certain age in my life that I'm no longer. I don't feel like I'm confined by technology or anything like that. I feel like I'm able to explore cool ideas and interesting ideas that we can start moving away from. If you want to talk about like the French New Wave, the cinema of the elites, the cinema of the safe cinema that you will see from the corporate Hollywood types. Now we're in the point where we can now make things that are challenging and different and exciting. Well, things like that, the little tiny movie that could, the Everything Everywhere All at Once, that we're able to make something great out of just relatively meager finances. I mean, relatively speaking, much more than I am. But I think the tide is ready to turn. I really do. I'm kind of excited to see what's going to happen here. Now, I will warn you that it will not come in the form that you expect. You will not necessarily go to the movie theater and watch, the new avant-garde cinema that's going to be coming down here in the next 20 years. You may not, those might be relegated to the Disney corporate media. I feel like societal pressures are going to make that content a much more. I don't know how it's going to come. We might see it on streaming, although streaming is starting to see a lot of. If we can just develop a financial model for which independent films can be financed and even generate money through an independent system, and that's always been the dream, right? It's always been the dream is how can we get people to buy movies independently. If we could figure that out, and we might be getting there, we might be getting there. That's the hurdle, right? Because I really think we can get. I think we can make that change. American movies have gotten worse in the last decade or so. I think the issue is not American movies; it's the corporate structure has gotten worse. And actually, I was just listening to some podcasts on the way here, talking about a term that I really liked, and it's called structural stupidity. It's actually Jonathan Haidt talking with Glenn Lowry. And I think you might apply it to corporate Hollywood. And the impact that social media has had on corporate Hollywood, and that people are getting afraid of being boycotted or attacked by a Twitter or whatever stream, or people go on social media and just dunk on people for any little tiny. I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like the social the social pressure of that is starting to wane. Like, it's starting to realize, like, hey, you know what? If people are going to go on Twitter and call me whatever they want, who cares? It doesn't matter. And I think that's going to. So, why am I talking about this? Because of the Quentin Tarantino's book about 70s cinema, and even things like there's a good large chunk about it talking about revenge-o-matics, he called them. Revenge-o-matics are films like Death Wish and even Dirty Harry. There's a lot of broadcast, not broadcast news, the other network movies. There's an angst in the society that I'm not going to take it anymore. Like, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. I feel like we're getting to that point. I feel like the social pressures are getting to that point where now we're no longer going to kowtow to social media and the social media structural stupidity of social media. and that we're going to be a little more bold and brave in how we make things. And that's the problem, I think, with a lot of movies have been stupid, have been he's calling stupid. But I think we're going to get further out. Truth Mystery was saying he's got a lot of comments here. I think they just want to make revisionist, crazy prog stuff like the Cleopatra movie. The Cleopatra movie, and it's not a movie; it's a documentary, right? So-called documentary. As would you call that a success? See, I think that's the limitations of there is a. I mean, people like Critical Drinker and that crew have successfully pointed out. And sorry, by the way, my rabbit scratched me. That's why you see that there. You have successfully pointed out this kind of the broken wokeness virus, we want to call it, for Hollywood. And sure, but the thing about that is they've been successful in doing that. Like, what is the Rotten Tomato score for Cleopatra movie or the documentary? It's not good. I'm seeing, you're seeing these things fail and fail dramatically. Wendy and Peter Pan. I scored tickets. The original cast, the original cast of the Peter Pan goes wrong. I was talking about that when Peter Pan, the Walt Disney version, was coming out. The only version you need to watch is Peter Pan Goes Wrong. I scored tickets to see the original cast do it in LA. I'm so unbelievably excited and fanboying like crazy. Like crazy, crazy, crazy. So I'm going to be excited to see that. But yeah, that Peter Pan movie bombed. All this stuff is bombing. It's showing you that is not going to continue. We're going to see a comeback. It's going to be great. And then here's the thing: we have now the tools to do it. Now, look, like I said earlier, you may not look the change coming may not be in your local movie theater. It may not be in your multiplex. It probably won't be, because that will probably be the realm of the corporatized Hollywood. But it might come in the form of YouTube. It might come from some sort of streaming, maybe an open platform streaming. I'm going to see a lot of other streaming sites. There might be some, if we can figure out a way to make this financially work, right? It could be a brand new, a new series of, again, a lot of what Quentin Tarantino was talking about in the book is talking a lot about these independent movies, some of these exploitation movies that were coming out that weren't necessarily on the big giant Hollywood corporate Hollywood studio sphere, right? We talked about last time I was here, and I missed last week because I was so busy last week. I had no energy. But last we talked about Russ Meyer. So Russ Meyer made that Super Vixens for like $100,000 and earned like I want to say a couple, well, at least 10 million plus. So it made its money back plus, I see exploitation. There might be a market for a certain kind of exploitation movies that are going to be coming out or at least that are going to be, done through streaming or something. There's something going to happen. Don't feel depressed about the state of cinema. I think the human spirit's going to seek out way more interesting ideas here. Let's say some of your comments here. Let's see. I think 70 Hollywood, there we go. Count for Comments says, I think 70s Hollywood benefits from diversity as filmmakers learning from traditional pre-WW2 values, post-war civil rights values, so Scorsese learned from the streets. Yeah, I think my point, I think, has not necessarily to do with diversity. Although diversity is sure. Diversity of opinion, diversity of thought, diversity of experience are all they're all important. Who was I was listening to somebody yesterday? I forget where it was, but I was, that's what it was, a writer. He was saying that a lot of times when I do filmmaker IQ stuff, in the early days, I would always get, yeah, but what does this have to do with filmmaking? And the answer is, Everything has to do with filmmaking. You can't be a good filmmaker unless you can internalize all the experiences of the world, all experiences of your life, that those all inform you as you make films, right? Making films is not about just landing the proper f-stop and landing the proper focal distance. No understanding what hyperfocal distance is. It doesn't make you a better filmmaker. Those are all tools to help you, but ultimately it's the life experience that makes you a better filmmaker. Even if you're learning about any topic will ultimately inform your filmmaking decisions. Anyhow, so that's in that sense, I believe that all viewpoints and ideas and thoughts all make filmmaking more diverse, more interesting, right? So, but I think the '70s particularly had a lot to do with the social miasma, if you want to call it that, of kind of we've reached the end. We've reached the end. And so what struck me a lot was the chapter that Tarantino wrote about Rocky. And I didn't realize, I didn't understand, I didn't put this together. That, I think he was asking his mom, like he saw an ad for Rocky, and mom's like, oh great, another movie about a guy and his problems. Everyone just has problems, right? But what happened with Rocky was, here's a guy who's down and out, just like everyone was in the '70s. Everyone's down and out, okay? And he goes for it. He works his ass off for it, and he doesn't defeat Apollo Creed, spoiler alert, but he gets a couple good hits in there, right? And everyone's cheering because they weren't expecting this. This is the '70s. This is the era of stagflation. Everyone's just down about, there's no optimism, right? And then here comes Rocky, and there's a glimmer of optimism. There's some optimism. And the way that Tarantino describes the energy of that ending in that given, and he explains this to us, like, if you weren't there, you may not understand how monumentally important that was. I feel like we're going to be in that cycle. I feel like we're in the down and out. I think a lot of people are disillusioned with the governments, with the institutions of media, with corporate Hollywood, with you name it. Any situation, people are disillusioned. I don't think anybody's super like, oh, this is a great time to be alive, guys. This is awesome. I think a lot of people are disillusioned. So I think we're in that cycle, because history doesn't repeat itself. It often rhymes, right? I think we're in that cycle. So we're going to be seeing a lot of art that's going to reflect some of that disillusionment. It's going to challenge us a little bit. It's not going to be so, I think wokeness is peaked. I think we're still going to be plenty of wokeness, but it's going to just peak. I think it's going to, I think we're in a good place. Anyhow, that's what I thought. Let's get some more of your comments here. Let's see. Did I watch Air? Yes, I did. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'm allowed to like this movie that much. I liked it a lot. If you haven't seen Air, I believe it's now on Amazon. If you're a Prime member, you can probably watch it on. Air is a good. Air is such a. It's like a feel good movie because everyone's working together, and I don't know how they did this, but it's like everybody. There's no bad guy in Air. There's no like villain. Right? Everyone, and if I just explain the story, and I explained the story when I saw it, and I was talking about it on stream, I explained it like it's a story about how Nike got Michael Jordan, and you could literally put it in a paragraph on Wikipedia. You could read a paragraph and get the entire plot. They went after Michael Jordan, and they signed him. That's it. But it's so well done because because you're seeing people working for it. It's got great interactions with character. It's got great, scenes of dialogue. It's just it's a well-made movie. It really is. I don't know how much more to describe it. I mean, I've only seen it once, so I can't break it down a whole lot more, but I really, really, really liked it. So, yeah, Hardcore Mortis' Air was surprisingly good. Not the best acting, but also not the best script. I think the acting was pretty decent. I think it's a comfort movie. It's like a comfort. It's like mashed potatoes. It's comfortable. It's a nice thing to eat. Do you think cinematography isn't creative enough? The same close, mid, wide stuff from the last 100 years can't be mastered, but not much innovation. So this brings up an interesting idea that I wanted to. Well, I didn't want to talk about, but I've been thinking about it too. So look at the cinema. So cinema of the studio era was very much of a stage area, right? So stage, like look at something like Casablanca. It's not. There's not the. It's about positioning actors on a stage and the blocking of the stage, right? And then Hitchcock comes along, and this is going to be a very reductive history, right? Hitchcock comes along, and Hitchcock, he's much of a more of a student of the silent era, right? Sound era, you start establishing sort of like a stagey like production style. Hitchcock comes along, and now it's much more of a he's more of the cinema of the eye. He wants it to be a visual experience. In fact, if he really, if his goal was to remove all the dialogue, you could still understand. If you turned a Hitchcock movie on mute, you would still kind of understand what was going on, because his approach was to make it very visual. It's a visual medium. Whereas, the Hollywood of the sound era is more of an auditory medium, more of a speech and writing. And now we have, I think, so Hitchcock creates this kind of cinema of visual terms, and then you've got, then it kind of dips back and forth, right? So people like, and again, Tarantino's books talks about this too. People like De Palma. De Palma fashions himself as a Hitchcock, right? He wants to push the visual aspect of it. So, and in my work or myself, I find myself, in my professional stuff I get paid for work, largely it's in the auditory function, right? So much of what I get paid for, as far as like corporate work or city work or any of that stuff, is I have to create perfect audio, or at least not offensive audio. That's the most important thing. And then the video sort of just fills that up. All right. That's mostly what I do, is essentially radio with moving images. It's like watching a podcast. It's people talking. It's like this. You're watching me, but like the visuals are not the most important thing about this live stream. It's just the audio and talking, and maybe the visual adds something to it, but doesn't quite. It's not the most important thing. Where am I going with this? I think the comment was, do you think that cinematography isn't creative enough? So, but that's a certain style of cinema, right? So you can do a back and forth, shot, reverse shot, and it'll work as long as the story and the writing are really solid. That the cinematography doesn't necessarily need to be super spectacular. Look at something like Fargo. The cinematography is very good, but it's not like, oh my god, it's not the first and foremost. The first and foremost is the story and the way it works. And you interject some things with some good cinematography too. And then don't clip this out saying I don't think the Fargo has good cinematography. I think it's the thing. My point with Fargo is it's not like first and foremost. You think cinematography. There's a lot of anyhow. I think you get what I'm saying. So, can be mastered, but not much. So, I don't think it. Point is, I guess you're making me think live here. So I'm going back and forth here. You can have cinema where it is not primarily a visual visual medium, where it can be more like dialogue and character and actor driven, and then you can have cinema which is more cinematography driven. They're different styles. So I don't necessarily think one is, or cinematography is creative enough. I don't really go for that. Anyway, my own personal experience, my own personal bias is I am always in favor of character. Like character. I'd rather feel something for the story and the characters, and that's what I'm into. So now I balance that. So I oftentimes think, well, I also want to see some good cinematography too. I want to have that too. So, do you think James Bond will return to greatness, or is the franchise dead for good? That's a good question. I feel like in the corporate milieu, the corporate atmosphere, that James Bond is probably done for. Like, I don't think you can do a James Bond that satisfies the sexual harassment training that he would have to go through if he were a spy. So I feel like for corporate Hollywood that James Bond is probably needs to be retired. And I'll be completely bold and honest to say that I think the modern corporate world will not accept James Bond for who he is. Doesn't mean they won't try to make another James Bond movie, but I think it's just not gonna feel right. So that's what I feel about it. One massive SBD can ruin a movie. I don't know what SBD is. Yeah, Rigel says Fargo is a flaming dumpster fire. John has the one from the internet. Yep, that's what I said. That's exactly. I love Fargo. I mean, yeah, there's some great shots in Fargo. I'm just saying, like Fargo may not be recognized as much as like Roger Deakins' work on like The Coward that shot Jesse James or something like that. Something like that. Yeah. Anyhow, it's not. It doesn't contain those spectacular cinematography feats that Deakins has sometimes been known for. But that's not the point of it. You don't necessarily need that. You want cinematographer wants to serve the story, not just be in itself. Be drawing attention to itself. Denise says, I think with the introduction of sound, cinema became a more literary medium while losing its visual quality. Hitchcock showed that cinema can be what's stripped down to its basics. I agree with that. Yeah, and also because of technology, because sound in the original form was very hard to capture. You needed to block off those cameras. You need to put them inside, soundproof booths, and you couldn't move them around the way you could move a silent camera around. I mean, look at now. Now we've got we've blown the doors off, and like you can do insane amounts of work. So this morning I watched and I'm not a big fan of these guys, but I watched them anyways. I watched this Dude Perfect. If you don't know Dude Perfect, I guess they're a bunch of guys that kind of act like they're probably in their 40s, like me, and they act like they're a bunch of frat boys, and they do like these impossible stunts. And there's this video where they were attempting to land a basketball shot from the top of the stratosphere and land into and throw it off the stratosphere and then make a basket that's located on the roof, right? So it's like a 500-foot, 260-meter, throw. And I watched this little documentary they made, and I thought this is actually pretty darn good. It's a good documentary, and I was like, I think this is the form of the new media that I think a lot of people are going to be employed with. So I just wrapped up my first spring semester class teaching at the college. And so I got to say, I was really impressed with one student's project. And it kind of opened my eyes, I think, what I should be teaching and what I should kind of be pushing people toward. Because I think this is the future. So they have to do a mini documentary, 3 to 5 minutes. I'm very loose about what documentary means, right? Basically documentary to me is anything that doesn't have live actors. So although I make an allowance for mockumentary. Mockumentary is a form of documentary making fun of the documentary style. Anyhow, so he didn't have any ideas for his documentary. So he went to like Tahoe to maybe do something there, but it didn't work out. So he got this idea of making a documentary about him learning how to do a backflip. Okay? Like this whole documentary is about him just trying to learn how to do a backflip. And it was very engaging. And he edited it with a lot of humor. And he even, like one of the shots he had a phone on his car. He was driving, which I don't recommend, but you do what you do. But he had his phone. He like accelerated, and the phone like fell over. He's like, "Oh, now we're going to voiceover mode, I guess," and it worked. Like he played with the limitations of the technology. He played with inserting comments into the shots. He did a lot for a first, obviously he has some talent and he's done some of this before, but it worked really well and the class really responded to it and loved it. And I thought, this is how I think the new media is going to be. I think we're going to see, not that cinema is going to go away. I think a lot of creation is going to be happening in this new media space, and I think a lot of work is going to be derived. Anyhow, that's my point with that. So, so yeah, that's my thoughts. I'm really excited for the future of cinema. Let's see what other comments. I'm going to go back in time here. Let's go back to my first page. All right. Do you think that? Well, no. A bad. Let's see. Rio, I tried to read a book the other day and I couldn't find out where it switches on. There you go. All right. Let's see. Count for comment. Obviously, I was about rejecting the self-righteousness of old school education back in the 50s. Maybe going back too far in time. Let's see. Let's jump ahead a little bit. Rigel 7 says, don't get me wrong, I love Fargo, but it's not recognized. John Hess, 3D printing enthusiast, 3D film enthusiast, high frame rate lover. There you go. Put that in the little description. Do you think cinematography and editing should be invisible to casual viewers? Good question. Yes and no. Like, yes. See, that's the thing. Like, if it's invisible, then you have people commenting like, how come we don't have cinematography that's really impressive? Right? So you do want, in essence, to be invisible. But sometimes you do want to be visible. Sometimes you want people to say, wow, that's really cool. Look at that shot. I think the problem, though, is if you want to be visible, it becomes an ever-increasingly hard, difficult track. Because, especially with AI coming on board now, with being able to fix things and do things, like... So running Filmmaker IQ for the last, or at least 8 years ago, well, I guess more like 10 years ago, but like when I was still doing blogs and writing every day, finding the latest blog, you become very retired and just exhausted of all the, hey, this is the first film using this camera. This is the first film using this technique. This is the first film doing this. Everyone's trying to top each other with being the first to do some sort of thing. And even just the other day, I got somebody trying to push their film idea. The first film using the what's that runway that replaces people with like an animated figure in the background. It's cool. It's cool, but I still see problems with the VFX. It doesn't integrate perfectly. And so what? Like, after a while, so what? So I think much more important is the emotional aspect. If we can trigger the emotion in the viewer, that's what's going to drive forth success. If it's just pretty pictures, just going to be more pretty pictures. Rick H, thank you for a super chat. If the college ever lets you teach your classes online, please let us know. You have a lot more students. I don't want to teach it online, actually. We did, although the college is trying to put it more as an in-person class. And that's the problem with being online is, to be honest, if you've watched all my videos, you've taken my college class. You kind of have. Except for the part where I interact with the students. That's the part you're missing if you took the online version. The online version is basically all the videos I have. Pretty much. And then if you watch several of my live streams, you probably get a flavor of that. But the actual class is getting to you to work with Premiere and getting to work with editing. And okay, so I'll tell you a story so I got a couple students that are like vehemently anti-Premiere in my class. The class is over, so I can talk about them. I'm not going to name their names, but a couple, and it's like every time I talk to them, their issue with Premiere is because they don't know how to use it They don't. So this one student like couldn't get their final in because they put everything to the last minute, and then they're at home and they put it all on. They uploaded it to Google Drive. All right, and then they probably left for class, thinking that when they got to class, they would finish rendering it, right? But then he gets to class and he's like, Premiere just said I don't have my footage. Premiere says I don't have this. It says I'm missing all these files. So Premiere is obviously to blame. Premiere is a problem. Premiere deleted all my files. I'm like, oh, hold on, let's figure this out. So like after the class, I was like, all right, let's take a look at it. So where are your files? Oh, they're on Google Drive. Okay, so you didn't finish uploading them to Google Drive. That's the problem. He's like, oh, but still Premiere's. No. You see, you uploaded it from your home thinking, without checking that it finished uploading to Google Drive, and then you came to class and you tried to download them from Google, but they weren't finished uploading. That's the problem. So, yeah, it's like what are you going to do? If you switch to Resolve, that doesn't fix that problem. Your problem still is Google Drive is still messed up. Anyhow, so that's my thing. Adobe's gotten lazy over the years. I disagree with that. I don't think the problems with Premiere, and granted there are problems with Premiere. But the thing is, I think they're always recognizing them. They're always kind of messing with them. The problem with Premiere, though, is that I would say that it's built on an older architecture. It's obviously an older architecture than Resolve. But the thing is, it literally eats all footage. The idea is you can put any footage in there and try to edit it. And that's not good. Because the architecture is maybe not necessarily built for every form of media, and that's what causes the problems. That's really what causes the problems. If you are very meticulous about creating proxies and working with the right file formats and making in Avid they call them mezzanine files. Avid won't touch your footage unless you have mezzanine files, right? So if you're a little bit more careful with that, I think Premiere runs really, really well, actually. So it's just when you start feeding it highly compressed footage, it just does not like that. So anyhow. Time for comment says, do you think mass audiences in the future of cinema can stand watching men being angry, stupid, sexist for the entirety of film without modern values? I'm not sure what that means. I think the mass audience in the future of cinema, I don't think the mass audience thinks people are being angry, stupid, or sexist for the entirety of film without modern values. I don't think that. I think you're missing a couple steps there. The other scary thing is you don't be careful. Be careful with making generalities like that. I think the future. I mean, generalities even in the past. You know what's interesting? So another cool point that Tarantino did in the book is he talked about Taxi Driver and how it played in the black exploitation theaters. That the theaters there felt it was a comedy, and they were laughing at it. They were laughing at, who's this Travis Bickle, this stupid motherfucker? That kind of thing. So to think of Taxi Driver as sort of a mythical, like, serious movie of, infinite. But some audiences are treating it as if it was a parody of the Revenge-O-Matic kind of style. So I think I don't know. I'm bullish on the future, I guess. I feel like the first and only audience you have to please is yourself. I tend to agree with that. Yeah, very much so. The only thing you have to be careful with that is just realize where your inside jokes go, right? Because people will make comedies with a bunch of inside jokes. And you're like, I don't get that. Like, no one understands it. But account for comment. And Othello, at my previous comments, the character was flawed and masculine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Or the Iliad. You're thinking about the Iliad. I don't see why wouldn't modern future audiences like that. Anyhow, Um, Chris, it's very early, hence why some regulations as soon as possible are very important. BT announced that they plan to fire 55,000 employees by the end of the decade. I think it's BT. I saw Sisu yesterday. One brain cell I have left after seeing John Wick 4 is now gone too. I heard that Sisu was good, but maybe I need to explore this a little further. I was going to go see Fool's Paradise, but I heard a really bad review of it, so I was like, well, I'm too tired. And that what happened was my car's tire is flat now, and I was trying to get it repaired, but then that ate up like half my afternoon to find out it's not repairable. So I didn't end up seeing Fool's Paradise because I wanted to support Charlie Day. I love Charlie Day, but I heard the movie is not very good. So, I mean, if I had time, I would go see it anyway to see if I liked it or not. But I don't have time. Filmmaker IQ. I shot some 4x5. Yes. Have you pulled out yours lately? No. I haven't shot anything other than work for the last, oh God, 5 days. No, 5 weeks. Although I did shoot some really good footage of a balloon event here in Temecula, where I live. We have something called the Balloon and Wine Festival, I'm being tasked with a get rid of the comment. I'm being tasked with a video for the city where they want to capture a bunch of shots around the city, and so they wanted to kind of remake a California commercial where like this lady flies through all the different cool things that you can do in California, but they want to fly through all the cool things you can do in Temecula. So I had to wake up early in the morning and get there. I got there about 5:30 in the freaking morning, which is awful. And I got up in the air with my drone, and I was like, I'm tired because I've been doing Jesus Christ Superstar the show for like 5 days a week for the last. This is my second week doing it. Well, I have one more weekend to go, and then I can get a break from that. So I got there at 5:30 in the morning. I got up in the air, and I was like, I'm tired. I'm super tired. I gotta be very, very careful with this drone because I do not want to fly into a balloon. Right? They gave me permission to fly. They gave me, the authorization. You're okay to fly. I'm telling them, I'm staying far away from any balloon because those damn things are gonna. If I hit a balloon, that's gonna be at least 5 figures, right? I gotta pay for the repair. That's gonna be nasty. So I stay far, far from any balloon. But I got some, and then I got some early shots as the sun was coming up. But the real money shot I got about 7 a.m. Because I did. So they had me go up in the balloon with this one lady, and we're shooting some stuff in there, and we're tethered, so we're not gonna get too high up. But I got some shots. Came back down, hopped into my drone, got one more shot at 7 a.m. The golden hour at 7 a.m. Which is I'm not usually awake at 7 a.m. for the morning golden hour, but it's a different golden hour. It's a cleaner looking golden hour in my opinion than the afternoon golden hour. It's a different one. It's just different. Something about it. But I get a couple shots and they are the money shot. Like that was gorgeous. So that's the best. That's the most artistic thing I've shot in the last 2 months maybe. Other than that, it's all very serviceable against, like I said, radio style stuff. Anyhow, basically, it's no shame for men to cry. I totally agree with that, Matthias, even though that's strangely out of context comment there. But I totally agree. No shame for men to cry. I'm sick of the whole idea of that you have predefined notions of what it means to be male or female. If you want to, you can be a man and cry. You can be a woman and not cry. It's perfectly. I think a lot of our problems are dealing with the problem. We're not willing to understand that there are vast different definitions of what it means to be a male or female or men or women. That we don't need to change that just because we don't fit it. Anyhow. Let's see. I applying for some grant money soon. Good. Well, I hope, knock on wood, I hope I get a documentary that they want to make. They'll get me some moolah for the summer. Yeah, understandable. The balloon video it looks beautiful. It's Just going. We just kind of flew. I just took a lazy art. When I fly drone, I have to fly at orbits. There's I can't do it. I mean I can do other kinds of shots, but the orbit shot is like to me butter. I can't do any. I cannot get an orbit shot. So I went around these balloons. They're having the festival. Nobody there. It was like ribbon cutting, but they had a couple balloons like rising up. So I did a nice little lazy orbit around. Then I realized there's a balloon somewhere over here. I'm like, oh crap! I'm not going to go further. I turned around and came back and landed, and it was gorgeous. It was really, really pretty. Anyhow, saw the new Guy Ritchie movie. He lost his mojo. Ah, that's a shame. Well, maybe he'll get the next one, as they always say. Time is it? 3:45. So I can only stay till about 5-ish. So we'll hang out for another hour. So, yeah, don't ask me any questions that you got. Like I said, my class wrapped up for spring. So we are now done. We had finals last week. I'm giving them a few extra days to turn in their assignment. If they want to turn it in late, I hate this about this class sometimes. So I had one student. Okay, I'm gonna spill my guts here. I had one student that said, "Hey, I just got a job, and like, do you mind if I turn?" He hasn't been coming to class because he's got a job. It's like, well, then you don't really want to be in this class. Because it's either your job or the class, and I get it. You got to make money. I hear you, but then you're not in the class. You're gonna fail the class. It's just the reality. You either are in the class or you aren't, and you're doing your job, and that's the reality of life. So he's gonna get a failing grade, unfortunately. Like I can't do anything about that. You got maybe part of what I got to do in this class is teach some of these students like some life lessons. Like, oh yeah, you thought making video was fun. Oh, it is. It is fun. It's awesome. It's the most amazing fun you can have. But if you decide to just procrastinate forever, and even though I've been telling you for 5 weeks, get started on your videos, get started on your videos, get started on your videos, and then you come to class, it's like, I don't have my video rendered, you're not going to get a good grade. They're going to get, I don't know if that kid is going to pass or not. I don't think he is. So I think he's going to get a big fat F. And maybe that's the lesson I need to teach these students. It's like, yeah, you need to like actually do the job. Anyhow, do you want to see the new Indiana Jones film? Yes and no. I don't know. I've read a good review. I haven't read a bad review. I've seen some bad stuff. I don't know. Probably will see it just so I can talk about it on the stream. And usually when I talk about Indiana Jones, talk about a big topic like that, I'll get more views. So yeah, I think I will watch it just to be able to talk about it on stream. What do you think about editing music and editing first and then adding music later? I believe editing music makes your decisions based on the tempo of the song as a visual instead of visuals. What do you think? Agree with you. Yeah. It depends. Like, so what I will do is oftentimes if I'm doing if I'm doing like a corporate piece, I'll often edit to music because I want the tempo. I want tempos. I want the music to. I want the visuals to be informed by the music, right? If I'm editing a performance piece, I won't use the music. If I'm editing a scene, I'm going to rely on the rhythm of the acting, the performance, and then I'll find music to go underneath that, and sometimes even adjust the music so that certain hits land on certain points in the performance, that kind of thing. Right, so that's my approach to it. But if I'm editing like a montage, like this recently, so one of the cities I work for called me and was like, "Hey, Time Warner Cable just gave us some free airtime. You think you can make a couple commercials for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'll make. When do you need them by? Today, if possible." I'm like, okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get them, I'll work on them tonight, and I'll have them to you in the morning. That's the best I can do. I can't edit them by 5 p.m. He called me at 11 a.m. It's like, I'm not going to get them to you by 5, but I can work on them overnight, and get them to you. And but that situation, that was the thing where I find the music first, and then I edit a bunch of montage, a lot of fast clips, and then that's how I would operate like that. Anyhow, that makes sense. Hope that works. Truth Mister says you have to teach the kids. You have to reach the kids, John. Have you ever thought about putting some of the JNCOs and skateboarding into class with boombox on your shoulder? Yeah, there you go. Exactly. How you doing, fellow hipparinos? But yeah, well, here's the thing. They are junior college students. They're pretty much fresh out of high school, and they've spent a good chunk of their high school education in COVID. So it's not going to be easy for those people, I think. Not going to be easy. But they need to be like, they need to wake up a little bit and realize, yeah, well, the way the class is structured and the way I teach it and the way my boss, the dean, or not the dean, the department head would emphasize is that we're teaching work skills. We're not this is not an art class. This is more of a technical like training class. So definitely. John should get some wicked face tattoos. There you go. Something under his eyelids like a switchblade. That will work. I should get 24 FPS, and then switchblades on them. That'd be good. I should do that. I'm actually, yeah, that'd be awesome. All right. I tried to get a quote on some song licensing. Turns out Universal Canada is a guy named Ralph, and Ralph's leaving me hanging. Yeah, there's in the U.S. it's like Fox Film or no, Fox Licensing. It's like literally William Fox Agency, not William Fox, something else. But it's like yeah, it's like one guy's name, even though it's a big giant corporation, but it's just like one guy's name. So let's see. Oh, I get it. So never mind. Cristoforo said, new written by Indiana Jones sounds weird. And then Count Simon says, oh, I get it. Old Indiana Jones is more suitable. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just watch it just to be able to talk about it. Although before I was like vehemently against watching it because it's like, why? Why are we making more Indiana Jones films? Just let the past die. Kill it if you have to. In the words of Kylo Ren. Anyhow. Any more comments coming up here? Any more questions we want to say? Yep. Your daddy says, thanks for your replies. I've been a fan since 2012 when I was in film school. I had a recommended books list back then. I read most of those and it helped me helped me get where I am now. So thank you. Yeah, those books are really. I should probably. I got to resort and do all that stuff. The truth about it is that YouTube monetization has gone to the toilet in the last 2 months. I think I've seen other people talking about it on YouTube. But it's like literally what I was making a month is kind of like halved. And it wasn't just because I haven't been putting out a lot of videos lately. Like I made that last video about the frame rate of the human eye. It got a lot of views, but no, but the money value is still kind of like dwindling. So I got to make more videos. One of the videos I wanted to make was what frame rate we need to simulate reality. And that's a different question than what the frame rate of the human eye is. So that was kind of working. I was talking to the guys at Blurbuster about it a little bit. Well, I'm going to kind of follow on that. And then I wanted to do a video about how to shoot 24 FPS in a smart way. And that would be kind of my approach to basically how to shoot cinematically, really, because I think that's kind of lacking. I've been doing a lot of I've been on Reddit a lot lately, probably because I've been between the show, I've just been kind of so busy that I don't have time to work on anything, but I have time. I can sit on my phone and watch, and just twiddle on stuff. Are any of your students watching this channel? Not my students. A couple other students on the campus were because I hired a couple students for a job, and they're telling me how they were watching another channel, and the other channel was talking about my channel, and it was like, oh wow, yeah, Reddit, hey, that's where you get radicalized. Yeah, so I get radicalized on Reddit for reading all the comments or all the questions in the Premiere subreddit, and at some point you just want to pull your hair out and be like, did you Google anything? Do you know how to Google anything? But well, here's the thing. I'll be honest. Am I never honest on this channel? Am I honest? I don't think highly of people who edit game footage. I don't know if you guys understand where I'm getting at with that. Like I am not impressed by anybody that says they edit like gaming footage. Like to me, it's like unless you actually shoot something, it doesn't impress me. It like, oh, here we go again. Here's another newbie who opened up Premiere thinking that they're going to edit some footage they shot on using OBS. That's it. And it's like, anyhow. Hi Cassidy, how you doing? A long time no see. How you doing? Yeah, so that's my salty take of the day, right? The open Premiere. Why won't Premiere open my MKV files? It's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. So anyhow, and that's also I get salty about all the people like, I want to switch to DaVinci Resolve. I'm done with Premiere. I'm switching to DaVinci Resolve. It's like, okay, go ahead. I'm not gonna stop you. Go right ahead. For me, Premiere is just way more integrated with my workflow. Yeah, you have to eat your dog food. If you don't shoot it, you'll never learn your weaknesses. Well, it's not even that. It's just all they're doing is editing their game. It's the whole Twitch crowd and streaming and all that stuff. And so all they're doing is they're streaming their game and then they're editing it, and which is fine. Do that, but it's like it's not a skill, or it's not particularly interesting to me. I don't know. I'm an old boomer, and I don't appreciate the fine art of editing Call of Duty footage or CSGO footage. I just don't. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. But it seems like all I see on those subreddits is that. And I appreciate. I'm on the videography subreddit, so I've also flared myself just to let everybody know that yes, I've been in this business longer than most of you have been alive. Like there's so much. I really hate. I really hate the. Now I'm babbling. I really hate the question like, hey, I'm new to videography. I've got $1,500 to spend. What should I buy? And somebody will chime in, you should buy the Blackmagic pocket camera. And like, no, you shouldn't. Not because it's a bad camera. I think it's a fantastic camera. But you have $1,500 to spend. The Blackmagic pocket camera is going to eat up like $1,200 of that $1,500. Oh, then you say, well, just get yourself a cheap, kit lens or something like that. Okay, yeah, get yourself a kit lens. Do you have a tripod? Do you have a microphone? Do you have a light? Do you have anything other than a nice camera, which will shake violently because you put a cheap kit lens that has no image stabilization on it, right? Oh yeah, and then don't forget, you need SD cards. Oh yeah, don't forget you need a case because you don't want to just be rolling up, and just pulling it out of your back seat because you don't have a case, right? Like the modern. Now I'm going to rant. You want me to rant? Are you not entertained? Do you want me to rant? Okay. I hate the fact that when people think about entry-level cameras, they think about photo camera hybrids. I hate that. Like, I hate the idea that people think I need to upgrade my camera. I want to get another photo camera hybrid. Like, it bugs the crap out of me because I don't think they're ideal cameras to work with. I just don't. Like, I much prefer, and my hell, I shoot with them. Not necessarily. I don't. That's not true. I don't shoot a single hybrid camera. Well, the Canon XC15 is the closest thing I have to a hybrid camera. But to me, that's more of a video camera. because it's more of a camcorder actually. It's just a camcorder in a photo camera's body. But but I just can't in this world where people are like, hey, I want to upgrade from my A7 this to it's like, no, just get a proper video camera or either get a camcorder. And I'm still like one of the only guys, well, not only guys, there's a couple other people in that subreddit that push the idea of buying camcorders. Camcorders are honestly a better value proposition for a lot of people than buying a photo camera hybrid, mirrorless camera, whatever you want to call them. Like a camcorder, way better option than for a lot of people. For a lot of types of jobs, right? Anyhow, I feel like I'm going on a random long ass rant here about something that maybe you guys aren't particularly interested in. So let me open up for more comments, more questions. We've got 40 people here, 40 people to chat. Let's bring it up here. What else do you guys want to talk about? Can I say something technical? Yes, you can. The new Zycon Z8 has profoundly disappointed me. Hate the hybrid. Yeah, that's what I have a problem with the hybrid cameras. Well, Rigel, here's the thing. For $1,500, I wouldn't buy anything I'd rent. For a newbie, though, you can't rent because they don't understand. You need to buy a camera. So my suggestion for $1,500 was to save it. Don't bother. Do not bother. Just use your cell phone for now. Learn how to get good shots with your cell phone. Maybe buy a light that's not too expensive. Work with a cell phone first, because $1,500 is not enough to make a dent in what you need to buy. You need to multiply that by 10 in order to make like a decent. So start with your phone. Shoot with your phone. And in my class, I tell them, it's like, we have Blackmagic 6K cameras for people to rent or to borrow for free. And some students abuse that by not returning it on time, which annoys the crap out of me. But anyhow, I tell them, you can use your phone, please. And that student I told you that made that really great final project, I think he shot the whole thing on his phone and maybe a GoPro, or maybe 2 cameras. But in fact, they had 2 cameras to his, in his accessibility, or he had access to 2 cameras. Made that thing really, really good. Yeah. So did I see the Richard Dreyfuss interview? I think I did. Yeah, he said diversity criterion Oscars makes him vomit. Lament the blackface Othello was long ago over. Yeah, I saw it. Let's see. I found it funny when the trend towards SLR style versus ENG style came out. The argument was the quality is such a small package, but then they got massive kitted out to be more ENG like. Yeah. Absolutely, Sharif. We are on exactly the same plane. It's like, yeah, you can people buy these, these SLR cameras, and then they buy a shoulder rig, and then they buy an eye cup viewer, and then they buy, and it just goes crazy, right? So one of the people was talking about, like, and he only had, like, on the Reddit, he only had $600 to buy. He was trying to shoot a chamber orchestra, like a recorded chamber orchestra. He said he already had the sound covered. I was like, okay, you have your sound covered. So he's like, for $600, well, what could I buy to set myself up? And like $600, dude, $600, you're not spending $600 on a camera. You gotta like take that budget, and you have to buy yourself a very decent tripod. I mean, decent as in okay-ish. And the cheapest I've seen for a decent tripod is a newer tripod for about $150. And I've got like 1 or 2 of them. They're okay. They're not Sacklers, but they'll do. They'll do in a pinch. And you need to buy yourself a remote control, because you need to get a camera that has a fixed lens with a servo zoom lens. If you want to shoot any kind of live event, you should probably have any kind of live event, you need to have a servo zoom if you want to do proper, event coverage. So anyhow, I'm going on a weird tangent. So for $500, I said buy yourself a refurbished Canon Vixia camcorder for like $200, $300, and then spend the rest on a tripod and proper like a controller, and then might be able to pull it off. Anyhow, so that's my point. How long have I been on for? I don't know. Probably an hour. I've been on for an hour. We came on 3 o'clock. So, any other comments, and guys, or questions you wanted me to cover? Or I'm running out of ideas. My mouth is also getting dry. It's been getting warmer here. Although when I go do my show, it's still cold down in Vista. It's pretty cold, but here it's getting kind of warmed up. Okay, I missed this one. VMV says, "What, in your opinion, is lacking in modern films to become cult?" Okay. That's a good question. I think there are still cult movies being made, but they're not being made by the majors, right? They're not being made by the major studios. I think there's a certain level of passion. You know, I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on what you would classify as what's considered a cult movie or not. I wouldn't even know how to approach that. I think what's missing right now is sort of I feel there's a passion, and the critical drinker would say things like the message, right? I think what's missing is that a lot of films may not get the audience, or the audience doesn't quite tie in yet. I think that's a lot of people are, and I think that's an untapped source of emotion. That there's a lot of emotion out there, and there's not a lot of movies that maybe reflect what that emotion is. So I think that's might be the thing. Okay. Here's another question from Andre Scheffler. Would you think that for editing one could start with free software like KDE and Live instead of Premiere, etc., or should you get one of the real ones for one of the professional alternatives? I think it's perfectly fine to go with a free version, and the free one everyone talks about is a Blackmagic Resolve. Like, go with Resolve. It's free, right? You can use Resolve and learn how to edit and work with that. It's a powerful piece of software. It'll do most of what you need to do. It can be done in Resolve, the free version. So I would just stick with that if you're looking for free. Now, what does Premiere have an advantage over Resolve? Well, if you buy Premiere, and you usually just don't buy Premiere, you're getting the whole ecosystem of Adobe. You're getting Photoshop, you're getting After Effects, you're getting Illustrator, you're getting Audition, you're getting a lot of other tools. So in my opinion, like that, if you were just comparing Premiere versus Resolve, it's nothing, right? Because they both do the same job of cutting footage, and maybe Resolve's a little bit more stable than Premiere. Okay, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it as Adobe, Premiere, After Effects, Photoshop, Illustrator, Audition. Those are the programs that I just primarily use. But you're getting things like Fresco, and there's Flash animation. We want to do animate. There's After Effects in itself is a whole genre of tool sets. There's so much can be done inside of After Effects with scripting and all that stuff. So to me, that's what I'm comparing. That whole bundle of tools versus Resolve, which has like Fairlight and has a little bit of their version of After Effects, which is not anywhere near, right? That's what I'm comparing it to. That's how I look at it. And sure, I'm not down if you are just cutting, maybe Resolve is just a better choice, because you can do Resolve, you can do cutting, you can do color correction. If that's all that you do, I can see that. But if you are in the giant ecosphere that I do, where you're doing all this other stuff, then the Adobe ecosystem just makes so much more sense. What movies make you optimistic about the future cinema? Watching mainly Asian films, I do not feel in decline, but most recent English-speaking film series that I watch is. What makes me feel optimistic is I feel like we are in the. I feel like there's an untapped market. I feel there's opportunity. So there's not any movie that makes me optimistic. I approach it from not to get down, you guys. I look at this world as a filmmaker. Not that I make films, although I have intentions to make films. I look at opportunity. You guys are, sometimes I feel like you guys are not necessarily you, but you're film consumers. Like I am seeing untapped opportunity. I'm seeing I'm seeing a market that's not being served, and I think it can be served. I think there's going to be opportunity. That's what makes me so optimistic. You know, what made me less so optimistic before was how, or thinking that the majors are essentially crowding out the space, right? But it seems like the general zeitgeist is we're getting tired of their cinema of tradition. If you want to use that, I talked about the new wave. Truffaut was very against the cinema of tradition. Cinema of tradition. So I mean, I'm not seeing any films necessarily coming down, but I see opportunity. I just feel like there is an untapped market for it. That's what makes me excited about it. I watched some videos from Captain Disillusion about TVs, and it's very illuminating. No pun intended. I don't know how Captain Disillusion makes those. He's so good at what he does. I mean, I think I'm more of my channel's content is more drier and more detailed, and his is just far more entertaining. I'll be honest, this is far more entertaining than my stuff, but I do go deeper into some things than he does. I'm a film student. I love editing. Any tips? Yes. What you want to do with editing is put it away for a bit and then come back and look at it. And then I want you to do is try to get a sense of the tempos of your cuts. And you can very much so, when I first started editing, and I got a lot of help from this one guy that worked at Fox, and his name was Rich, and he would sit down and go through each scene with me and through emails, and he would tell me, take this cut, move it 3 frames earlier, move it 2 frames earlier, try this cut, move it a frame earlier. So individual frames, and again 24 frames a second, individual frames were enough to dramatically change the character of a shot, and where you cut as far as what point in the action it occurs, what point in the performance, sometimes even the moment of the dialogue, the performance, those cuts, individual frames matter. Individual frames matter. And that's, I think if you start looking at that, your stuff in that granular level, then you'll start improving. So, aren't there great movies lately like Beau is Afraid or Everything Everyone Wants? So isn't that a good reason to be optimistic? Yeah, I heard bad things about Beau is Afraid, so I haven't seen it yet. But I think what the reason I'm optimistic is, like I said, I think opportunity is abound. I think there is a lot of stuff. And EEAO is not an Asian film. Everything Everywhere is American film. It's an American film. It's not Asian. It's produced in America. It's directed. Half of the director team is American, and it's an American film. It's about Asian Americans. It's not an Asian film. Do you believe that Hollywood will or is run out of stories due to diminishing influence of American agendas on the decline of American culture? I think so. We got into it earlier, but basically, corporate Hollywood is become systemically stupid because of social media and social media pressures. So basically, anything that comes out becomes, or like this. I've got Faye Valentine back there. When they made the Cowboy Bebop, and they made her completely sexless, took out all her feminine attributes, for no reason. I think kowtowing towards certain kinds of ideologies, I guess. I feel like that's the reason why the corporate Hollywood is going to be diminishing. Do it, run out of stories? I don't think there's run out of stories. I think they're just playing far too safe. I don't think you're ever going to run out of stories. I think stories are an unending well of creativity. There's plenty of stories. The problem is there's just too many. Too people are just too scared and too afraid, and I think that's why I'm optimistic. I feel like there is a room for the independence to not be afraid and to be daring, and I think that's going to be that's why I'm optimistic. And I feel like that wave is turning. Your videos like the one on interlacing 24 FPS and film sound were all good. Helped me light the spark of interest. Technology, history of interlacing alone did so. That's cool. Yeah. No, it's, you know, I fight back a lot on this channel on this idea that people in the past were stupid. Like that's all. I feel like maybe because I deal with YouTube and now Reddit, it's like everyone else is stupid but me. Like, no, the past, the people were smart. They were smart, and you can be smart too. It's okay. And to borrow a name of another channel, it's okay to be smart, although they changed the name to Be Smart. I think they changed the channel. They changed the name. But yeah, so interlacing is fascinating. All that stuff is fascinating. Anyhow, that's my point. Rigel Sevens, optimist sees the glass half full, a pessimist sees it half empty, a producer sees people staring at a glass of water and asks, how can you make profit from it? There you go. I agree with that. Christopher Rowe says, I've been dealing with interlace since the time of the Amiga. Yep. those old computer games or old Nintendos and Amigas and all that stuff. I know that EEAO is an Asian American film, but I felt it largely due to Asian influence. A story about family, generational values, and trad American like anti-hero, while the trad American like anti-hero declined. Yeah. I mean, it's largely Asian influence, but it's not an Asian movie. You know, it's an American movie. There's nothing wrong with an Asian flavored movie. I'm Asian flavored myself. You know, nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, I think it's inconsistent to call it an Asian film because it's not. It's not an Asian film. It's an American film. So I think it's disingenuous is the word I'm looking for to call it Asian. The only bad thing is that people were more obsessed with backwards compatibility, so we got NTSC. No, I totally disagree, Andre. 100% violently disagree. Backwards compatibility is the reason why we have stuff today. Because you give too much credit to corporate Hollywood or corporations if you think that backwards compatibility is a bad thing. Right? Like backwards compatibility is, and I will argue this all the time because I think kids don't understand how important backwards compatibility is. Because you're so used to living in a disposable world. You're so used to living in a world where I got to buy the latest iPad. Oh, you know, this iPad's too old, doesn't run the latest. I got to throw it away, right? Versus like a television that, you know, if you bought a television 15 years ago, it should still work somehow. Or even if you bought it like a year ago, it should work. If you don't have backwards compatibility, you lead yourself to a world where you're constantly just dumping and destroying, just buying new stuff all the time. You know, and we also talk about like every time I go try to buy an appliance, it's like, oh man, you know, 20 years ago they made appliances that would last forever. Nowadays it's like you gotta buy an appliance every 5 years. You buy a new dishwasher, buy a new because they don't make them like they used to. Well, yeah, because this whole idea of like, oh, backwards compatibility is a bad thing. No, man, backwards compatibility is a great thing. And we've really, we screwed ourselves for not considering it. And I get it. Like, okay, yeah, you know, your computers have grown so fast that, you know, a 10-year-old PC, you can't expect to play the latest, you know, AAA game on a 10-year-old PC. I get that. But a monitor, should a monitor not work because it's not backwards compatible? Nah. AI will replace Hollywood? No, it won't. No, it won't. Have you ever used AI? Like AI will not replace Hollywood. The question I guess you ask yourself, I mean, with the current writer's strike it, is the writer's output as good as AI? And you're like, well, I don't know. Some of the stuff the writers are putting out is not that great, and AI could do their jobs because AI is so middling. But the problem with AI is AI is so AI will be that AI will be that safe Hollywood that no one will want to watch because it's safe and it's not human. It's not interesting. Like AI, I don't think AI can make an interesting opinion. Can AI? Can you ask GPT to give you an interesting opinion or an interesting story? I don't think it can. It creates the most mid stuff ever. I was telling this story about the other day about how we thought this one lady, we were shooting this congratulations speeches for some employees that were getting awarded, and I was like, well, let's ask ChatGPT to write a congratulations speech, and it did a good job, but it was so mid. It was so mid, just nothing particularly interesting. Too many stories about family, too many stories about heroes, personal dramas. Perhaps there are still more scope in here for something interesting. I don't mind more stories about family. I could use more stories about family. The black market ad points all this out, dude. I don't know what that means. Oh, the ones from 1982 from your interlace video, only to them correct that in the video description. I'm not sure what that means. I think Nintendo came out in 82, but my version was from 89. Not sure what that. Let's see. At least in Europe we had SCART with RGB on our TVs, so at least you could get really high quality output from a DVD player if you had a good set. Okay. Are you gonna start the? Are you gonna start like format wars here? Oh, there you go. There it is. Still, D2 MAC is analog format with a proper color component transmission. Was incredible in the 90s, but required new receivers for all TVs. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Like, okay, try to explain to your grandma why she needs to buy a new transmission or receiver in order to watch EastEnders. Right? Try to explain to everybody. Oh yeah, you watch that show, but you're gonna need to buy a new set. Your set works fine, but you need to buy a new one because it's got slightly better color. For guys that don't even care much about the color. Anyhow, the guy at Mentor Pilot was comparing AI with a more advanced autocorrect. See, some of you guys watch the same stuff that I do. Yeah, AI. Yeah, that's the problem with AI. It's looking for patterns, and that's all it is. Now, it's going to be a great tool. Like, don't get me wrong. If I could get AI to do a lot of the redundant stuff that I do, I'd use it. But it's not going to replace the human because here's the thing: what does the AI do when no humans there? It doesn't do anything. The AI just sits there, it's waiting for a command. So, it's not. There's still going to be a human involved. And there always the way we're going, a human will always need to be involved unless we develop a different kind of AI, what they call an automated general intelligence, which we don't have now. We don't have that at all. But what we have now is always going to be a human involved. I work in VFX. I should swap to game development industry because the writer's strike and very high chance of layoffs in the near future. Should I swap? You're asking me a question about your career that could last for 30 years over the fact that writers are striking and right now that might get resolved in about a month or so. No, don't make your decisions based on that, dude. Make your decisions based on what your opportunities are available to you. Like are you looking at your job and thinking, well, I'm probably going to get laid off. If you think that, then you should try to find another job. And if that's in the gaming development industry, why not? You go for that. If you can transfer your skills over there, do it. Don't there's always going to be a strike. There's always going to be some turmoil. There's always going to be a threat of layoff. Right? You got to figure out what works for you. It's not, don't base your decisions on just one micro event that happens. Games need writers too, but games don't have writers, don't have the union stuff with them. Last drama question for me. Do you think bragging about racial casting could end or decline with Cleopatra, Velma, and Peter Pan? I felt that now it brings more negative attention than pros. The question is, is the racial casting stuff, if they follow the philosophy of any publicity is good publicity, then they all generated publicity for their stuff, you know. So, so I don't. If your gain was to do a very quick monetization and then leave, then I don't think it's going to go away. You just do that and then make a buzz, and then get some quick views, and that's it, and be gone. Now the question is, will those views get any more play? I don't know. So, isn't the border between games and movies shrinking? No, it's not. Games and movies are huge. Now, because I'm answering your question in terms of, are games and movies the same in experience? And no, the games and movies are totally different experiences. But if you're using Unreal Engine and virtual productions, yeah, sure. I mean, you can utilize some work in there. But games and movies are vastly different mediums. Don't make the mistake of thinking they're the same. They're not even close. In fact, they're probably more different than they've ever been. When my Philips TV from October 2008 conked out on me, instead of trying to cheaply buy the latest TV, I instead eBayed the same kind of TV because of the learning of the history of interlacing from you. Oh no. Well, I hope you didn't keep it for interlacing, because I kind of hate interlacing. I wish interlacing would go away, but yeah, I don't know about keeping interlacing. Most movies these days might no. Don't think that. No. Most movies are not video games. Not even today. They're not. Why would you say something like? Why would you say something that stupid? I'm sorry. That's just dumb. They're not video games. Would you want to play Grand Theft Auto if you had no control over the player, and you had no control over the camera, and it was only 2 hours long? Is that your idea of a good video game? Is a game that you have no control over, that you can't do anything in? Is that a video game to you? Like that? No. It's sometimes people get caught up in wordthink, and where you think, oh, that's a clever thing. Video games are like movies today. No, they're not. No, not by any stretch of the imagination are movies like video games. They're nothing like them. And for the basic point that you can't control. No, it's not. Again, that's just plainly stupid to say. Breaking Bad is not a Grand Theft Auto in TV series. I mean, Grand Theft Auto is literally ripping off all the movies. And it's come on, guys. It's I'm sorry, it's level stupidity. Careful, you just pitched Grand Theft Auto the movie to one of the majors coming to cinemas in 2024. Well, have you guys not seen any fucking movie? Have you guys not seen any movie, any crime movie? Do you guys not realize that Grand Theft Auto is basically the crime movies? Hello? No. Again, Edge of Tomorrow was not a PC game. Did you control Tom Cruise when you were watching Edge of Tomorrow? Did you have your controller in your hand or a mouse in hand? Were you controlling Tom Cruise? No. You stick a chord with me. Yeah, I'm getting annoyed because how stupid you guys are thinking in terms of movies and video games. Like, do you not realize that a video game is not a movie? Like, does that distinction not you just don't understand it? That you just think like oh, they have similar storylines, that they're same by the power of Xenu. No one can control Tom Cruise. There are games that you drive through the stage, and you drive through the stage. Do you not see how that's different? Do you not get how that's different than like a game or movie where you don't actually drive through the stage? What do we think when we watch a computer generated movie? When do you think we watch a computer generated? When do you think we watch? I don't I don't know what that means. When do you think we watch? We do it all the time. What's the difference between a computer generated movie and an animated movie, or a photograph movie? They're all the same. Yeah, they both use screens, therefore they're both the same. Exactly. That's the problem. Like people think they both use a screen. They're both visual mediums, so they must be exactly the same, or must be even anywhere near the same. What did you miss about Grand Theft Auto movies and games? That they're not the same. And I was saying people are like, oh, Breaking Bad is basically Grand Theft Auto. It's like, no, you guys not realize that Grand Theft Auto is based on movies. Oh my God. Anyhow, all right. I tried the new fiber optic HDMI cables. I find good quality, like the classic good cable, very thin and flexible. I will buy again. Very good. Do that. How you doing, Bullet Silence? How you doing? Count for comments says, movie or passive games are active, but more and more smart asses. Kept trying to mix the two, but Breaking Bad clearly is influenced by Grand Theft Auto. No. I don't think Breaking Bad is influenced by Grand. I mean, it might be a little bit, but like, where do you think Grand Theft Auto came from? It came from. Have you guys? I mean, look, who's played Grand Theft Auto 3? Are any of you guys played Grand Theft Auto 3? You never played Grand Theft Auto 3? Safe houses, a lawyer, car crashes, blown up missions, mini games. Yeah. Where do you think safe houses came from? You think they don't exist in the real world? Do you think they exist in movies? A lawyer? Wasn't there's a lawyer in Godfather. There's lawyers in all these movies, man. Yeah, you played Grand Theft Auto. So if you played Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, did you not see the fact that those are all based on movies? Or are you just lost in that? You didn't get that part? That they're all based on or you ever played the first one? Yeah, the very first one. But the very first Grand Theft Auto, it wasn't based a lot on the movies, right? But Grand Theft Auto 3 was based a lot on the mafia movies, like Godfather and, all that stuff. And Vice City was Miami Vice and Scarface and stuff like that. And then San Andreas is based on like more the LA, they're all playing off each other. They're all playing off each other. So yes, I mean, I'm sure you can say that. You can definitely say that there are some movies that are sort of like kind of bouncing off of Grand Theft Auto. It's a back and forth. It's never a direct one direction. It's not. Grand Theft Auto's got the point where it's now obviously infiltrated in the culture that it feeds other media, and there's back and forth, right? Good Lord, didn't anybody here play with chips and bottles? But yeah, there's always coming back and forth. There's always coming back and forth. But to say that to make a Grand Theft Auto movie would be kind of pointless because Grand Theft Auto is based on movies. So it's like it doesn't, there's no one particular game. Anyhow. Why do you keep saying you keep abbreviating Grand Theft Auto with an O? That's not right. Breaking Bad may make people see parallels with Grand Theft Auto because it's drawn out episodic story like an open world game versus a 2 hour movie on the rails story driven game. Yeah. Well, I mean, are you going to say like Sopranos is based on Grand Theft Auto as well? I don't know. What are good movies based on video games and vice versa? I mean, the latest one was Super Mario Brothers, is pretty decent. I liked it. Sonic the Hedgehog was okay. Pikachu Pet Detective I liked. What else? I'm trying to think. I don't think there's a lot of other video game movies that are really impressive. Lego Movie. Yeah, Lego movies are good. Lego the movie. I have a project in university, which is a short film. I want to work in dreams. I watched the dreams of Akira Kurosawa. Any other suggestions? Watch. No, I was just going to. Top of my head was like Vanilla Sky. Movies like that. Maybe What Dreams May Come would be a good one to play with. That's a good little movie. It's kind of been forgotten about. I'm trying to think what other dreamy movies you can talk about. I don't know, chat will throw us some ideas for you. I admit the progressive scan video is better than interlacing. It phased out for good reasons, but the history of interlacing is so fascinating I just had to buy one. Same kind of replacement. Yeah, well, you know. I have one interlaced TV left, and I've gotten rid of all my other ones. I thought Stay was a good movie about a type of dreams. There you go. 2005 film with Ewan McGregor. Dreams by Cranberries. Jacob's Ladder. Oh, Jacob's Ladder. That's a good one. I haven't seen that in forever. Yeah. Is there any game that you'd think would be a good adaptation for a movie? Most ones I remember were okay. All right, here's one would like to make, but I would never be able to get the rights to. The Seventh Guest. I think that would make a good movie. It wouldn't have any of the game stuff. There wouldn't be any like puzzle games in it. But I think Seventh Guest would make a good movie. Maybe Mist. Mist might be kind of a fun movie. But I don't know if those movies will get made. Because I think the Seventh Guest for sure, the rights are all messed up because the people that made the game hate each other, and they'll probably never ever let anybody use them. Night of the Hunter is a masterclass. I 100% agree that really is a cool one. That might work for your dreams as well. Yeah. They made a movie out of Tetris. Those freaking freaks. I want to see that. I hear it's pretty good actually. The Tetris movie. There is a Grand Theft Crank. Crank is not Grand Theft Auto, man. I don't think you can make a connection to Crank and Grand Theft Auto. Oh, I guess Last of Us, yeah. Last of Us, haven't seen it yet. That's an example. Monkey Bone is a nice one of dreams. Okay, there you go. Portal as a game? I don't know. I don't know if Portal would work because I don't think Portal has a good enough story. Yeah, Gary's like, Crank is not Grand Theft Auto. People in this chat are really stretching the whole Grand Theft Auto inspired these movies thing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I've lost it. Yeah, I probably have. Again, like no, Grand Theft Auto did not inspire all these movies. I mean, there's gonna be like cultural idea sex, but we can't lay at the feet of Grand Theft Auto when Grand Theft Auto is in itself very much self-aware that it is making is pulling from the popular media. We need more Star Trek movies. I think we need more smart Star Trek movies. BioShock, there's another one. BioShock Infinite, I actually would like to see the BioShock, the first one. Although I think Gore Vidal was supposed to be working on one. Because I've always been fascinated by underwater movies. Like ocean movies are way more interesting. I haven't played Infinite, but I liked the the originals. I think there is a very cool, under submarine horror, libertarian kind of and Ayn Rand style flavor that you can do with Bioshock One that would make a really interesting movie. I think the best Star Trek movie was Galaxy Quest. Do not disagree. I don't think it's the best Star Trek movie. It's one of the finest Star Trek movies ever made. Anything made by Il Bol doesn't count. I don't know. What were we talking about? Or alien movies or The Wizard? Let's see. The Wizard from 1989 was a good video game movie. It's just a shame it got screwed over by Universal, but still ended up being good in the end, though. There you go. Ayn Rand, I read Atlas Shrugged. LOL. I can't read, so it's too much reading. Bioshock is too huge of a story. Just do I'd be happy with like a story inside the Bioshock universe, that kind of thing. Game adaptation movies. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, I get you. Yeah, anything you both doesn't count. I agree with you. None of that. Meg 2 is coming out. Oh, okay. I didn't see the first Meg. Ooh, A Man Called Otto. That's a good one. I don't think I've seen that one. I've heard of it, though. Transformers is a video game or only a movie? I don't think sure there was Transformer games, but I don't think it was that popular as a game. More so as toys, right? I'm sure the NES had a Transformers game, but I don't think. I think they were probably everybody knew it from the game, from the toys, and from the what you call it, the TV show. I was impressed with Evil Dead Rise this weekend. There you go. And there's a Five Nights at Freddy's movie coming out. Okay, that could be creepy. I can get that. Yeah, Sam Rockwell is so good in Galaxy Quest. Anytime I see him, something like I think it's Guy Fleegman doing it well for himself. There you go. Movies like he's in Matchstick Men, isn't he? And going back to this is the last one I saw him in, or no, like Jojo Rabbit. Loved Sam Rockwell in that. Anyone? Story-wise, not something new. We're talking about Evil Dead there. Just cool cinematography. Cool. Back in the 90s, every movie got a game. Yep, I remember that. Remember all the Disney games, Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and Beast. Remember E.T. was known for the worst possible game ever made. It was the E.T. game, and just wholly terrible. Yeah, Matchstick Men is one of my favorite movies. Yeah, me too. I always think back on that one fondly. Now we're getting some comments here. I'm a bit on the nostalgic 90s indie cinema trip at the moment. I wonder if there's a lack of this kind of film these anyways, or if I'm just not tapped into what's out there as much as I was. Part of the problem is that the 90s was a very niche time for like studios to support independent film. People like Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, all these kind of indie voices that were shooting up in the 90s. And now there isn't that partly because I think of YouTube, and all these films can be made and put onto streaming for free, that kind of thing. So it's you're not going to see it from a corporate backed Hollywood. But I think that's what I was talking about earlier was I'm optimistic because I think there's an untapped market for that. I think it will come back. I really do. I just don't know how. Don't know how yet. Oh yeah, the Indiana Jones trilogy felt like video games with levels. Okay. I'm surprised most movies based on video games that don't replicate this effect, like especially Breaking Bad. Yeah, they're not video games though. For that by that standard, like any Sherlock Holmes games or any police procedural, because they have to go through a particular set of things. They're not video games though. Like fundamentally, We gotta look over the superficial similarities and look at the very key difference between video games and movies. And it's such an important key distinguishment between video games and movies that if you ignore that, you make stupid comparisons, like just plain stupid dumb comparisons. Like, oh yeah, the movie has levels and it has bosses and it has puzzles. Therefore, it's a game. Like, no, it's not. It's not anywhere near a game. It borrows the same language, perhaps, the thought processes, but they're not. Sherlock Holmes is just GTA in Victorian London. Exactly. So the essence of a game is so foundationally different than a movie that you can't compare them. You can't compare them. The feelings are similar. No, they are not. They are not similar at all. They are completely different. Completely different. You watch a movie, you play a videotape, LMAO. Is Bubble Little Godzillas? Okay. No, it's like in a movie, do you see, if there's a fight scene in a movie, do you see in the top like a little health bar go across? Cube is an escape room, people. Exactly. Yeah, no, my fundamental issue is you're making superficial connections. Oh, the feelings are the same. No, they're not. They're not at all the same. Movies and video games are completely, utterly different experiences. Hey, Scott Pilgrim, you got health bars. Exactly. Yeah. No, maybe Scott Pilgrim is. They should. Why isn't there a Scott Pilgrim video game? There needs to be one. Well, they have plenty of Japanese dating games, right? You can go on there and try your luck with the Japanese girls. Yeah, there. I think movies are like games because every time you go into the cinema, it's a roll of the dice, smug face, slap, sips martini. Okay, whatever. That health bar is like the question if there is a death for heroes in Marvel. The problem I have with all the Marvel movie fights is there's no health bar. Like they just keep. That's the problem with all these superhero movies is they punch them in the face. It's like what is that? What good does that do? You punch them. Oh, what good does that do? You throw them against the wall and they leave a big hero shaped hole in the brick. What good does that do? Like it doesn't. Like there's the problem with superhero movies and fighting, and I've known this since Spider-Man 2, 2000 whatever it was. Is that there's no consequences at all. There's no effect, right? Like at least if you put a health bar up there, you punch somebody, you see the health bar go zoom. You're like, wow, that was an impressive punch. But the problem is nowadays all the movies is like boom, boom, shoot them in the side, but they're not really. There's no stakes. There you go. There is a Scott Pilgrim. It's a 2D side-scrolling level-based beat 'em up. There you go. Yeah, bullet signs. There are no consequences. There's no, if you had a health bar, you could at least see the health bar go halfway down. Good night, Cristoforo. Happy Monday in Rome there. Yeah, you mean like a video game? Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, but the fundamental difference between gaming and movies, it should be obvious to all of you, right? It should be completely obvious. In that you create the story in a video game. You create the story. You through your actions, you bring forth a story forth. Right? That's the foundational difference. You are the one in charge. Movie, you're not in charge. You have no control over what's happening. You are a witness of what's happening. Whereas in the game, you are the perpetrator, or you're the driving force. You're internalizing. You play, you play any game. It's about you. You're building the story. In the movie, the director's built the story. You're just witnessing it. To me, that's so elementally basic that there should be no question about why movies are not games and games are not movies. It's like anybody that's ever played a game will know that. But we flood ourselves with so much language and so much flowery, like, well, the cutscenes and cinematics of games, that nonsense, superficial nonsense that they share. Obviously, they share a common visual language, but foundationally, they're completely separate, different experiences. So, I give up. You seem to be unable and unwilling to understand the point. Good night. All right. See you later. I mean, I don't see why you. I don't know what you're getting at. No, video games are unable and unwilling to understand the point. Like, no, it sounds like you have no clue what you're talking about. It boggles my mind how you can make those arguments and not get it. Have you ever played Among Us? There's a Japanese horror film called The Villagers and the Werewolf. It's about people playing social deductive games. I'm not saying movies or the games are the same. I've played Among Us for a little bit. I didn't particularly care for it. I just didn't get into it. It wasn't my thing. But again, I don't see how that if you're saying they're similar. I'm not arguing that they share visual language similarities, but the foundational problem is movies are not a video game experience. All right? No, there's no. Okay. The experience is getting more and more mixed up now. Many new games are much more cutscenes in my taste. You can say that, but what triggers a cutscene? Does a cutscene get triggered by you sitting there not doing a thing? I don't think it does. You have to trigger a cutscene. I agree. Maybe a lot of games are kind of like basically stories, but you still have to drive them. You still have to drive them. Not disputing the fundamental difference. Yeah, but I think you are disputing it. I think you are just trying to dispute it. You're saying video games are becoming more like movies, and saying no, they're not. They're not in any shape and form like a movie. They are still at heart a player-driven experience. A movie is not player-driven. A movie is not viewer-driven. That's extremely different. I heard that Last of Us is... No, it's not. You guys continuously, fundamentally miss the point. Like, I mean, other than insulting you guys and saying you guys are idiots, how can I get you to realize that there is a foundational difference between a player-driven narrative versus a passive-driven experience like a movie? Like, how do you not get that? I'm serious. I'm not joking. Like, how do you not get that? I think they're trolling me now. Perhaps. Perhaps they're just watching for the entertainment of this. Because is it not foundationally the most basic understanding between video games and movies that you see the difference? And you could try to make like argument, well, there's a lot of cutscenes now. But a movie is nothing but cutscenes that you have absolutely no control whatsoever. So a movie is a video game where you start the video game, you put the controller down for 2 hours, and you don't do anything. That's a movie. All right? Would a video game ever be that? And I can't imagine anyone saying, yes, that's the way it's going to go. Like, no! No! It's never going to be that way. Unfortunately for me, I found games trying to make me more passive as times... Again, coming down to the point, have you ever played a video game where you start the video game, put the controller down for 2 hours, and not touch it? That is a movie. I don't care if you say, well, it's more passive. I don't care. That's not the point. The point is the game itself still requires a player involvement. It still requires the player to initiate the actions of the game. In essence, the player becomes part of the experience. A movie is still voyeuristic. A movie is still outside and witnessing what's happening. Now think about this. A movie that you can actually play. That's called a video game. That's not a movie anymore. That's a video game. Oh, there's that one Black Mirror special. Oh my God. the problem, you guys are attempting to argue with me on this. It's like you are getting caught up in this in word think. You're thinking similarities. Well, it's similar. Well, the storylines are similar. There's bosses and there's levels. Like, as if life doesn't have levels. You know, high school is a video game because high school you have freshman year and sophomore year. No, no. I stopped playing JRPG since, I guess. Oh, on JRPG, you autoplay 20 minutes gone by. So 20 minutes gone by, you did nothing. What happens after 20 minutes? It stays there, right? Anyhow. It's fun to play devil's advocate on this? Sure, I guess so. I guess if you just want to be an idiot. I deal with this a lot because people are saying, well, why in video games and has a higher frame rate than the movies? It's like the foundational differences are different. Like here's the thing, I knew this when I was 7 years old. Well, maybe not 7. Maybe when I was like 12 years old. I remember thinking, what am I going to do this afternoon? I could play a video game, or I could watch a movie. And like I knew this at 7 years old, the difference between the two. Like I foundationally understood that a video game I would enjoy because it activates a certain part of my brain where I'm involved in doing something. A movie I can enjoy a different part of my brain because I'm sitting back and I'm watching something. All right, it's complete. Oh, never mind. The 12-year-old in 1996. I was 14 in 1996. Now, I do agree that there will be a push to bring more interactive experience to cinema. I disagree. I don't think there will be a push to bring more interactive experience in cinema. Because cinema doesn't have interactive. Cinema does not have an interactive aspect to it. I don't think, no, I 100% disagree because cinema is not interactive. It's just not an interactive medium. If you want interactive medium, you go to video games. There's no cross. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and really push hard on that. This debate sounds like an argument for and against time travel and what time is. I don't get how that works, but sure. Yeah, Chris, I'm saying film is a predetermined narrative according to the vision of the director and the writer and all that stuff. Video games incorporate the degree of chance, interactive in nature. Exactly. Chained Echoes, the recent acclaimed JRPG by indie creator. I recommend at least reading the Wikipedia page about its creator. Yep. A movie is preset, scripted, filmed, edited. It's the same all the time. Yeah, I agree. Again, I'm kind of baffled that there's an attempt to make this cross. It's not, and even there's not even. You can't even. It's one of those things where you're trying to say I understand they're different, but you're arguing like they're not, and that's the problem. I know that games are not movies and movies are not games, vice versa, but the makers got more and more influence on each other. It's driving me mad too. I agree that they're influenced by each other, but they're influenced by a whole bunch of stuff. They're influenced by books. They're influenced by paintings. They're influenced by music. They're influenced by everything. Your statement that movies and video games are influenced by each other is a non-statement because everything is influenced by everything else. But the foundational problem, the problem is saying like, well, Grand Theft Auto inspires Breaking Bad or Breaking Bad. Like, no. Like, movies and video games are not the same. Whereas Gary Grady says movies and video games are the same. There you go. Whatever. So, anyhow. Video games used to be 2D, and now them are 3D. Same with movies. Now it's 5D. Okay. Not useful. A movie from the 50s and shown today is the same today. Yeah, exactly. So, movies and video games are not the same. They are not any shape, form the same. They share visual language. That's all. Anyhow. Sharif says, movies and interactive cinema has been peddled in various forms for 30 years. Has never worked. We now have photorealistic games which should nullify any desire for interactive movies. There's an example from the 90s, I think, when Ebert, there was a series of movies where you could basically vote on what would happen next. And Ebert just panned it because it's like, why would I want to watch this if the movie viewing experience is a different experience, and you're looking for, you're witnessing, you're being told a story, you want to be taken along a journey, whereas if you decide what the journey is, it's a different experience altogether. Anyhow, The Matrix 2 and Enter the Matrix do this very well with writing. The actions you do in the video game have a direct result in the movie. Oh, I'm not sure I follow that. Movies are basically rock carvings. John Hess, Fargo hater. Fargo hater, HFR lover. Put that in there. Make sure you get that right. The thing is, I played games for gameplays. I watch movies for stories. I hate the way they mix it up. Okay, here's another problem. So, all right. Here's a problem I see in your comment, and I see it in a lot of other comments. If somebody does something you don't like, and it fails, doesn't mean it's a trend. All right, maybe they're attempting to make a movie, okay, that's or a video game that's basically unplayable. We don't get to play. But it's just basically a movie with or it's a pick your own ending story, right? Doesn't mean it's a trend. And you're arguing with me about the similarities. They're not similarities. The example why you hate it is because I'm saying is foundationally they are separate experiences, and this particular game maker or whatever, or particular property just didn't understand that, and it's not going to work. That's the problem. I think so many times people come to me like, oh, can you believe, they always think that something bad happening is a trend. A vertical video is a trend. Oh, in the future we're all going to be going to movie theaters with vertical video. It's like, no, never mind. I get frustrated because you take such a small-minded view of the world. You got to open up your eyes and see the bigger pictures. Bigger picture. The widescreen. Not vertical video, widescreen. Gary, you're wrong. Virtual reality will not advance to replace feature music because virtual reality is not why we watch movies. I'm sorry, you're just wrong because you don't know why cinema exists and why feature filmmaking exists. You don't want to be in them. So the problem with virtual reality is you are stuck as a virtual person in the scene. Like you can't cut in virtual reality, right? You can't cut. You can look at it if you're in. Let's say we're in a coffee shop scene. Two actors talking. In virtual reality, I can look at one actor, look at the other actor, look at the actor. I can't cut from one actor. I can't immediately see the other actor's reactions. I'm looking at this actor. Virtual reality is not film. It's not cinema. It will never replace it. Never replace cinema. Because it's a different experience. Different experience. Insultingly, I'll say, people like you do not understand how this art form works. You have no clue. So you make stupid statements like virtual reality will replace feature film. You have no fucking clue what you're talking about. VR will be its own thing. It's that left-hand puppetry is just basically, said it there. I read it and I said it out loud. VR will be its own thing. Just like theater is its own thing. Just like video games is its own thing. It will never replace. Like, how could you recreate the space battle of the Millennium Falcon being chased by the TIE fighters in virtual reality? How could you do that? You could be on the deck of the Millennium Falcon, but then you're on the deck of the Millennium Falcon. What you're looking around, you can see the windshield but you can't see the TIE fighters coming at you, going zoom, zoom, zoom. You can't see Luke back there firing up lasers. You can't do that with virtual reality, because virtual reality, you're stuck in a virtual space. That's why it doesn't replace cinema. It's not the same experience. Count for comments says JRPG has. I don't care, dude. I don't fucking care. Oh, the fans love it. So what? That's their thing. All right, whatever. I just don't fucking care, dude. You're wrong. You don't know. You're arguing. You're arguing your moronic statements by picking out JRPG of Japanese RPGs. Is that what they are? I don't fucking know what they are. I don't care about them. So they have fans. Okay. Anyhow, it's so annoying. Yeah, no, VR can't replace cinema. VR can't guide you where to look and might miss the whole point of the scene. Exactly. For one, I'm not stupid. Are you calling movies films where technically we don't use film anymore? Oh, you are, Gary Tucker. Are you trying to argue semantics about films and movies? Oh my God. What I think I'm saying is they are the same. No, of course they aren't. I am. Oh, Gary, you're stupid. Sorry. Film is a finished art form, just like music is painting. Nothing about it will replace anything interactive. Would you like to live inside Mahler's symphony or a painting? That's a good point. Could you imagine interactive Mahler's symphony? I get to decide what the next note will be played. Actually, I do. As a musician, I do. Not always good. Not always good. Video games will no more replace movies than movies replace books. Exactly. Gary, the thing is, you don't understand the industry, so you don't understand where the industry will go. My example of the Millennium Falcon, the Star Wars asteroid battle scene is exactly why VR will not replace movies, because it is not the same experience. You will not experience that battle by sitting on the board the Millennium Falcon in virtual space. Now, you can make a VR experience where you do experience a battle through a starship. It's a completely different experience, though. So, yeah. I can argue. I'll tell you, argue 100%. You do not understand the art form. You cannot, if you don't understand the experience and why people approach these things the way they do, you won't understand the industry. Instead, you're just locked in this kind of techno babble, preaching whatever sells the most technology. Remind me not to piss you off. Well, yeah. I'll piss you. You can piss me. I'll get pissed off at you, but it doesn't mean I won't read your comment. I won't get too vindictive. Unless you go off on me, then I'll eventually ban you. But, we get heated discussions, right? That's okay. I'm not going to ban anybody. We're going to keep reading comments. Anyhow, it's like going on. I see it on Reddit a lot. I get annoyed by Reddit, right? So I go on Reddit and I'll read what do you think the Dogecoin is going to be in my prediction, my annual estimate for the Dogecoin is going to be $3.57 based on my projections for, it's like, no, you're trying to sound smart and you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. No fucking clue what you're talking about. Anyhow. There is some degree of art form replacing others in that there's a hard limit of 24 hours a day. We all them. Okay, I get that. I agree with you. Like if we didn't have TV, we'd be reading more books. I get that. Anyhow, if Gary Tucker wanted to argue VR was becoming more popular than films, he should be clear. I agree. I don't see VR becoming more popular because I feel like VR still has a lot to gain. It's I'd rather. One of my friends said he wanted to put on VR goggles to watch a movie. I'm like, why? Why would you want to watch a movie in VR when you can just watch a movie in IR or whatever the hell we are? RL. Games are now as broad as any art form of entertainment. Nobody will all like games the same way nobody likes all films and books, TV. They're all still different forms of arts and media. The point, again, coming down is that they are different experiences. They are not the same kind of experience. And you approach games from a different experience than you approach a movie. Like I say, even if you are not putting down the control for 20 minutes while the cutscenes play out, it's still not the same experience as a movie. It just isn't. Weird how there's no good movie about crypto yet. Wait, just wait. I'm a good dude. What's that line from? You're a good dude. You're a good dude. John's a good dude. We can disagree. Yeah, absolutely we can disagree. Doesn't mean you're right, though. We can disagree. I mean, I will agree to disagree. I will agree that I am right and you are wrong. And you have no clue what you're talking about. Because truthfully, I find that I think you're reading too much into superficial stuff. You are missing the forest for the trees. You're saying, oh, they both have leaves. The foundational thing you're missing is that they are different, approached differently from different experiences. Now, you could ask yourself, when I was a kid, those choose your own adventure books, are those really books or are they something else? Okay, you can argue that. I would say, I would still say they're not necessarily a book. They're no longer maybe cinema, choose your own ending kind of a cinema. But I don't think that, I don't think I think you're missing the foundational difference. And that's key. If you don't start with that foundation, you build up all these weird branches and it doesn't work. That was my point. It isn't ideal that to art of the cinema that what we can't take from that. But you're going to tell me that the corporations that control medium care about the art form. I don't know what your point is, though. I'm saying that corporations will make VR experiences, but they're not cinema. And they're not going to replace cinema. And you're not going to say, well, the corporations are going to stop making cinema and they're going to start making only VR. You said, if we go back, I'm not going to go back and find it, but you said that feature making will no longer exist and it'll be replaced by VR. And I'm saying, no, it won't, because they are not the same. I guarantee you Disney's going to make a virtual reality stuff. I guarantee that, there's going to be these companies that make these VR experiences. Of course. But are they going to replace it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if you keep going around saying, oh, it's going to be replaced, it just betrays the fact that you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. That's all it means. It just means you just sound stupid to anybody that knows anything. I think you misunderstand my point, Accounts continues. I don't say anything about you believe that you believe. I know the difference, but I never believe they should be the same. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. The problem is you're coming across like you sound like you don't know the difference, or you're arguing that they're making a leap. And I would say, I don't think there are. Again, I don't know what your JRPGs are. I don't fucking care, honestly. But if you say they sound to me more like choose your own adventure stories. Okay, well there's your gray area then, I guess. Anyhow. I think I'm going to start a John le Carre novel tonight. I just brought a few, including Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. There you go. Can you recommend one film from 2023 worth watching that most people missed? Air. I don't think anybody saw Air, honestly. So I would go Air. A-I-R. There you go. Stranger Sound says photography didn't replace painting. Nothing will replace good cinema. Exactly. There you go. My institution gave out VR sets to students and facilities free, trying to improve teaching efficiency, and no one is willing to go through the trouble of setting them up and using them. I think VR kind of died, honestly. Look what happened with Facebook. Like, Facebook just gave up on Meta. They're not going to do it anymore. My God, my heated... I was waiting for some heated stuff, and now it's 5:15. I got to get going pretty soon. I'll go till 5:30. We'll go 5:30, and then I'll get you going. Let's see here. hits blunt. The real ultimate art form is a simulation that runs on reality. There you go. Rigel says, I'm old enough to remember when the car replaced the horse. They haven't made a horse since 1983. Yeah, someone's saying like, oh, no one rides horses anymore. It's like, well, yeah, no. People still ride horses, but they don't do it for like utility. They do it for fun. Van says, I can't see air. It's invisible. That's true. All right. Art forms can fluctuate in popularity over time, but they are indeed never killed. Books aren't popular as movies, but books haven't been killed and never will be. I think, and in fundamental, I mean, there are certain art forms that have been like lost to time. Like, Matthews, we've talked about the tapestry, how the tapestry has been lost to time, basically. But I think what's frustrating for me is that people think so little about the art. I mean, we've talked about this on comment sections. They think so little of the art form. They don't understand that watching a movie is not playing a video game. And a lot of kids today play more video games than they watch movies. I probably did as a kid growing up. I probably played more video game than I watched movies. But they're foundationally different. Again, I knew that when I was 12 years old. Anyhow, go see Blackberry. It's a great film. There you go. That's a good recommendation. I should check that out. I haven't even heard of it. They're trying to mix it up in games, though. But in films, the attempts are fewer. Many game developers in Blizzard and God of War are film school graduates. Sure. Again, like I said, there is visual cross. There is cross-pollination in visual medium. There is going back and forth over and over again. But there is pollination. Share a visual language. If you are a filmmaker, you can develop certain kinds of things for gaming. But problem is the gaming itself will not have the kind of does not have the kind of language that the film necessarily needs. Again, like something like Minecraft, right? Minecraft is superbly popular. Superbly, it is it is definingly popular, right? It's one of the most popular games ever made. And it does not in any shape and form resemble anything that comes close to the movie because they are completely different experiences. Obviously something like God of War, obviously those kind of games will play into some cinematic elements, but they have what makes those games resonate with people is not the cinematics necessarily as it is the gameplay, as it is the involvement of the character, the interactivity, that kind of thing. So I know we're getting back and forth. I disagree that there is. I feel like you're reaching for a way to see how they come together. What I'm saying is that they are literally two separate trees whose branches maybe overlap, but they're not at all in any kind of. They're not any way sort related, and you shouldn't necessarily think of them as that way, or else you make great grievous errors in how you develop both sides. I'd say that making a movie could be as interactive as a video game, but watching a movie is not as interactive. Yeah. Making anything, playing an instrument, going to a rock concert could be a video game for that matter. You've got to get past the bouncer. You've got to show your fake ID and be able to get through, that kind of thing. Do you really think there aren't any artists making tapestries today? Of course there are. But tapestries are a primary utilitarian thing far more than books. Yeah, but there might be like one or two tapestry artists out there. And then they're so few and far between that you can kind of say that art form is sort of dead. Obviously any art form, as long as somebody's making it, there might be some art form that is dead that we don't even think about because we haven't thought about that kind of art form in a long time. I'm trying to think, what would be a dead art form? I don't know. I forget. I have to think about it. I watched American Hustle recently. American Hustle, definitely a good one. Definitely a good one to watch. With Unreal Engine becoming a thing in virtual LED, do you think it'll be easy for productions to use the same assets? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. I don't see why not, right? Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, other than maybe the optimization question, as far as like the virtual LED production might just be way too excessive for a video game to be distributed. But maybe then modern video games are getting so big that maybe it doesn't matter at all. I don't know, but it seems like that would make sense. Yeah, buggy whip design. Buggy whips have as an art form that has pretty much probably died. Yeah. Anyhow. Oh, there you go. So there's a compliment. I found your filmmaker reviews very incredibly astute and informative. Honestly, the best on series. Thank you, Chris, very much for that comment. As I go off on people that I probably don't necessarily agree with, but because we're arguing online, it's fun. Who on earth would see a movie in VR? What if I'm looking the wrong direction? Like my friend was saying I wanted to watch a movie in VR, like put the VR goggles on and then watch a movie screen in the VR. It's like, oh, come on, dude. Do you have a favorite music video? That's a good question. I lost it there. Um, my favorite music video. I really liked. I really liked. What's it called? Well, I like Men Without Hats, Safety Dance. Yeah, don't tell the Amish that the buggy whip is done. So, maybe I could shed some light on why I don't think video games are like movies. With that answer, what's my favorite video game? Right now, I'm playing. I'm like between a couple of different video games, and those are. Well, I used to play a lot of Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Space Program 2, I bought it, and it's still. I'm waiting for it to like release the science, so that way I can enjoy the progression of the science. So I'm not playing Kerbal for a while. And then right now I've played a lot of Transport Fever 2, which is a game where you build out railroads and you design railroad patterns and you get them all lined up. And then recently I haven't played. Last game I played was Dyson Sphere Project. I played it. I've beat that game before. I'm just playing it again because I wanted to play it again. So as you can see, I play very non-story based games where I create the story. I don't necessarily play. I mean, I've played Grand Theft Auto. I've played a little bit of. I mean, but something like Witcher 3 was starting to play again for a little bit, but I kind of fell off the wagon with that. Again, that's a game where I basically decide the story. I make the story. Grand Theft Auto, I create the story. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2, I make the story. I decide what to do next. I keep the story going, right? So all my experience with gaming has always been I choose the story. I create the story. And, I enjoy those games in that they're about my decisions and I create that. Like I told my friends about that one time I played Kerbal Space Program and I launched a ship to Mars and I landed on Mars, but I had just enough fuel to get up out of orbit to try to rejoin the returning ship. But the problem was I didn't have, I was like a kilometer or like 20 kilometers away from the ship. I couldn't make it with my fuel, so I had to get my Kerbal out. He had to jump off his little lander pad and then jetpack the last like 10 kilometers to get to the mothership. He landed and it was like 4 a.m. I mean, I had to do this mission like 25 times over and over and over again to get it just right. But I couldn't do it. Like, fine, I'm just going to try. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to Martian. I'm going to science this thing. He gets out and he starts, I made that story. Like that story I participated in. I was part of that story. That's what gaming is for me. I create the story. It's something that I will always remember. I will tell people about that one time in this one game I played this thing. That's because no one else will have quite that same experience. That's what's special about the gaming experience. I watch a movie, different the whole thing. I'm watching someone else's thing. That's why it's so much different. That's why like I so bristle at the idea like they're the same. So I don't play cinematic games at all. I don't. I guess I don't. And in my world, I guess in my experience, Those kind of games are not, like Witcher 3 will have cinematics, Red Dead Redemption will have cinematics, but they're not the gameplay. There's stories that I create. Anyhow, uh, making televisions as a piece of furniture is a dead art. That's true. Well, nowadays, yeah, nowadays, it's a big black thing above your fireplace. Anyhow, all right, I gotta get going pretty soon. Let's go stay out for a little bit, and then I'll have to go get some pre-show dinner before I have after-show dinner because I have to have two dinners. Luckily, I didn't have any lunch, so that's good. Music videos are tough because you either like the song or the video. That's true. In fact, I should start thinking about some Katy Perry songs then. Huh. Uh, the best music video without music wouldn't that just be a video? John directing Kerbal Space Program, The Great Escape, sold. Yeah, Kerbal Space Program. I mean, people are all mean about it right now. It's alpha release and there's nothing to do right now. That's the problem with the game. It's like they released it and everyone played it for a little bit. It's like, okay, that's cool, but there's nothing really. There's no like challenge. There's no progression. So we're waiting for the science. There's a it used to be called a career mode, where you would do stuff and then unlock other parts to do other stuff, then unlock other parts. That's what everyone played. That's what's the fun part. But right now it's just like, well, it's a sandbox. Build your rocket and shoot it up, and go over the place, and that's the thing. I fully agree with their story creating John, but cinematic games exist. While I don't like it, I do try to push it a while. I do trying to push it a while ago. Again, the trees you're missing the forest for the trees. They're cinematic games. They're still games. They're still the experience of controlling what happens in the story. Even if you control, even if you unleash a 20-minute cutscene, the fact that you controlled that you generated that, and I'm assuming if it's an RPG that you could have also triggered a different cutscene, or you could have triggered a different storyline. That fundamentally makes it a different experience, right? There is now. Again, I don't know about your JRPGs. I don't know. Honestly, are they basically the same thing? Is it just basically waiting for you to hit the button and it plays the next cutscene? You hit the button again and plays. I would agree. That's not a good game. To me, that's not a game at all. That's not even a game. That's basically a video, like a video series. But it's no different than a YouTube playlist. You hit a button and it plays the next video. But if you control the story by making a choice, if you have a branch, then it's different because it's a different interaction with the medium. I just turn down the Katy Perry videos and enjoy the scenery. I don't blame you. I admit my childhood nostalgia is a big factor for why I'm interested by interlacing. I got into an argument with somebody about how you can't recreate interlacing with LCD monitors. And again, one of those things where I argue with people because they miss the fundamental difference between the two. And it wasn't it was actually with technology connection. I wasn't arguing with technology. I was arguing on one of his threads with somebody about why LCDs do not have the same experience as interlace. You will never be able to create or simulate LCDs. And it's not just because of lines versus pixels, although that adds to it. It's because LCD is a subtractive format. LCD starts with white light, and you subtract the red, green, or you subtract the colors to get the colors on your screen. Whereas interlaced CRT is an additive process. You're shooting electron beams to a little photo site, and it glows. So you're adding light. So if you're trying to create the interlaced look on an LCD, you have to subtract from light, and that creates a different experience. Versus an CRT, you're adding light, so you get that bloom. That's people are like, oh, this is exactly how a LCD simulator. Like, no, or a CRT interlace simulator. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way because fundamentally they're different. Again, like, it should just rename the topic of this stream to fundamentally they're different. You can't. It's like saying they're apples and oranges. They're different. Yeah. It'd be a hell of a filter to make that LCD truly look like CRT. You can never do it. That's the thing. Because CRT blooms. CRT adds, the light adds together. LCD, the light is subtracted. You start with your backlight, you subtract the colors, right? So if you try to interlace it, then you're subtracting from white. It doesn't have the same. It won't bloom, right? Because you're subtracting the lines. Versus CRT, which you're shooting light at. You're shooting the phosphors are glowing. They're creating light. Anyhow. I'm fascinated by a CD player with support for 5 CDs. My family had one when I was a kid. I love to see the inner. I always hated those 5 CD platter things. The CDs would always get discombobulated, and then it would switch CDs, but then it would like work half the time and it wouldn't work. And it's like, oh my God. So annoying. So annoying. I thought the Killer of the Flower Moon looked kind of interesting. I didn't see the new trailer for Oppenheimer. So I don't know. The Killer for the Flower Moon felt a little too... I don't know. I mean, it's Scorsese, so it's probably going to be a good movie. But it just felt a little bit... I don't know. It felt a little too one-sided. I'm saying that the people are trying to make them more the same. So? They're not the same, though. They can try to make them more the same, but they're not the same. I'm not sure... I don't see that. I don't even see how they're being successful. Like you're saying, you have to, again, pointing out what you're saying is you're saying that there's these long cutscenes. That's not the same. That's not even bringing them together. I don't see them as coming to the same. Does that make sense? Like I'm not saying that they should be. I'm not saying they should be. I'm not saying that here's the line here. Movies and games and movies should be differentiated. I don't say they should be. I say they are differentiated, right? They are differentiated. You say people are trying to make them more the same. I say, so what? I don't care if they're trying to. They are different. They are different. I didn't make a filmmaker IQ video about the topic. Okay, maybe I should. The video title should be Antiquated Technology Chant. There you go. There you go. All right. I've been on here for, like an hour and a half or so? No, 2 hours? Oh, Jesus. 2 hours? No, an hour and a half. We good. I got to get going here. But, yeah. No, we're all cool. I get argumentative. I think Gary left because Gary didn't like me calling him an idiot for saying that VR is going to take over. Especially now because I think VR has kind of died a little bit, haven't it? Hasn't VR kind of like not been super exciting lately? But yeah. Anyhow. All right. I got to go get something to eat and go get ready for my show. So I got my van because my damn car's tire died. Or flatted out on me. And I take it to the America's Tires. America's Tires said they'll fix any tire for free. Like, cool. Take it over there. And I was like, well, I'll buy some wiper blades while I'm at it. And then I come back 2 hours later, like, oh, we can't fix your tire. Like, all right, fine. So I had to go back to my original tire place, the part where I got my tires, and say, well, it's not under warranty anymore, but we'll buy you some new tires. Like, okay, it's not too expensive. But they're not in yet, so I have to wait till Monday to get it. Is it on Saturday or Sunday? I'm not sure. Usually, next week will probably be Sunday because Saturday will be my last show for the Jesus Christ Superstar. So probably Sunday next week, unless something happens. Probably Sunday. All right, guys, we will see you later. Thanks for hanging out with me. And yeah, we'll get more heated discussions next week. And have some fun. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Take care now. Bye-bye.